Welcome to Tomorrow Unveiled, the program that cuts through the noise to show you exactly how technology is reshaping our future today.
And this week, the sources compiled by our dedicated research team are painting a picture of, well, undeniable structural friction. We're really moving past those theoretical debates about future tech.
Yeah.
We're seeing the actual economic shockwaves hit the labor market, our education systems, and even global policy frameworks.
It feels like the central theme for this edition of Tomorrow Unveiled is what the research team is calling the Great Decoupling.
Hmm.
It really feels like a defining moment where we see this convergence of AI, massive automation, and other tech leading to a profound separation.
Kind of separation, how so?
Well, technological capability and productivity are just accelerating at this unbelievable rate. But the traditional systems we rely on for wealth distribution, I'm talking about reliable wages, stable jobs, they're showing these deep, uncomfortable cracks.
Exactly. And the sources our research team pulled together are, frankly, a massive shortcut to understanding the urgency here. The mission of Tomorrow Unveiled today is really to analyze those friction points across work, education, governance, all of it, using only the confirmed, cross-corroborated data we have right now.
And what we've managed to synthesize confirms four, I think, critical intertwined themes. First, just the unprecedented speed and scale of potential AI job displacement.
Right.
Second, the resulting and accelerating crisis in our education systems. Third, this really complex regulatory race that's happening among states to govern algorithmic bias.
And finally, and this is the hopeful part, the accelerating breakthroughs in what we call abundance technologies, clean energy, rapid mobility, which offer a really powerful counterweight to all that anxiety.
It's a huge piece of the puzzle.
And we'll explore how these structural shifts mean that policy innovations, things like universal basic income, are moving so quickly from just theoretical white papers to validated necessary pilot programs.
Just to manage the transition.
Simply to manage the transition for millions of workers.
Okay, let's unpack this. I think we have to start with the friction in the labor market and just the sheer magnitude of this core economic shift.
Let's do it.
So when we talk about AI displacement, the numbers confirmed by the research team's analysis are they're genuinely staggering. This isn't abstract loss anymore. It's quantifiable, measurable economic value that is on the table right now.
It really is. The data, which is based on these comprehensive U.S. labor analyses, it presents a very clear, immediate picture of the technical capability of current AI systems.
Okay.
The findings indicate that AI has the technical capacity and the economic feasibility today to replace work equivalent to about 11.7% of the entire U.S. workforce.
11.7%. That's approaching 15 million workers.
Yeah.
And when you translate that labor into dollars, you're talking about, what, roughly $1.2 trillion in annual wages?
It's the number.
To put that in perspective, that's the work that AI could, right now, feasibly take over if companies decided to optimize entirely for efficiency and cost cutting.
And you have to remember, that 11.7% figure is just the floor. That's the current feasible minimum.
Right.
If we look out a bit, toward the end of the decade, other studies compiled by the team show the theoretical maximum potential is much, much higher. Up to 57% of U.S. work hours could be technically automated by 2030,
Wow.
potentially unlocking a colossal $2.9 trillion in new economic value. This isn't just about efficiency. This is a radical restructuring of how we produce things.
But this introduces the crucial paradox that I think a lot of people grapple with. We hear these huge numbers, $2.9 trillion, 57% of hours automated. But we haven't seen 57% of people lose their jobs.
Not yet.
Not yet, right? So why the gap? Why aren't these massive potential displacement figures translating into immediate mass unemployment?
Oh, the research highlights that the transition is messy, it's slow, and critically, it's unevenly distributed. Technical capability doesn't automatically mean imminent job loss for a few reasons. Organizations face huge friction points: retraining costs, integrating with legacy systems, legal hurdles, and just, the inertia of human management.
So it's happening, but quietly.
It's a slow drip of attrition and internal reorganization, not wholesale layoffs. Well, until very recently.
And that leads us directly to the confirmed evidence that this friction is now hitting the cognitive middle class. We have concrete, validated data signaling this acceleration is starting.
Absolutely. The ADP National Employment Report for November 2025 it's the flashing red signal here, and it's critical we understand its significance.
It's a big deal.
It is, because the ADT report is widely used as a forward indicator for private payrolls, often coming out before the official government data.
Yeah.
In this report, which our team's analysis confirmed, showed that the private sector actually shed 32,000 jobs.
That's a huge reversal from previous trends.
A stark reversal, yeah. It really signals that the whole soft landing narrative might be starting to unravel in the face of these huge efficiency gains from automation.
And when you look at where those job losses are concentrated, it confirms that this isn't about the factory floor first. AI is targeting the cognitive middle class.
Precisely. The sectoral hits are so clear. The information sector, so that's tech, media, publishing it, shed the most, losing 20,000 jobs. That's the epicenter of generative AI adoption.
Right.
But maybe more telling is the contraction in professional and business services. They lost 26,000 jobs. This is your consulting, legal services, finance, admin support, the traditional white-collar middle ground.
Even manufacturing saw some losses.
It did, about 18,000 jobs. But the shockwave, the epicenter, it originated in the office park, not the factory.
So if tech is eliminating all these routine cognitive tasks, what's happening to small businesses? This leads right to what the sources are calling the crisis of scale. The AI dividend seems to be helping large companies while just hollowing out small and medium-sized businesses.
This bifurcation is, I think, maybe the most profound structural shift we found in the sources. Small firms, defined as having 1 to 49 employees, they are enduring the deepest losses. They shed approximately 120,000 jobs, according to the ADP analysis.
So why are small businesses, which we always hear are the engine of job creation, why are they the most vulnerable right now?
The main reason is a concept called capital amortization. We really need to be clear about this mechanism.
Okay, walk us through it.
So large firms, those with 500 plus employees, they're seeing the strongest growth and they're offering the highest pay increases, almost 4.9%. They just have the huge amounts of capital needed to quickly leverage these expensive specialized AI systems.
So can you kind of break that down for us? What does amortization look like with an AI system?
Sure. Think of it like this. Imagine a specialized AI platform that costs, say, $10 million, a high-end server farm, proprietary software license. They can automate most of your HR, your marketing copy, supply chain analysis. A massive enterprise can spread that $10 million cost across 10 million customers. So the AI cost is effectively $1 per customer.
Right.
A small business, though, might only be able to leverage that same system for, say, 1,000 customers. Their cost is $10,000 per customer.
That's completely unsustainable.
Exactly. The large firm immediately lowers its operating costs. It achieves massive scale and becomes hyper-competitive. They get the AI dividend. Those small and medium businesses, the SMBs, they just can't amortize that cost of implementation and training fast enough. It makes them uncompetitive.
Unless they pivot to something hyperhuman that AI can't touch.
That's their only move. So the immediate impact of AI is not this diffusion of economic power that we were promised.
Yeah.
The research is clear. It's concentrating power into the hands of those with the capital to implement it first.
And the only way out for a small business is to adopt cheaper AI tools.
Right, which usually means laying off the human employees who used to do that work. It becomes this vicious cycle of optimization.
This whole paradox is perfectly illustrated by that fascinating anecdote about the NVIDIA CEO who's mandating full automation while also expanding hiring.
Yes, those reports are so instructive. The CEO is explicitly mandating that employees automate every single task they can with AI, and he's dismissing managers who resist as insane or lazy.
And yet at the same time,
At the same time, the company is aggressively expanding its hiring, planning to reach 50,000 employees. This just perfectly encapsulates this vertical shift we're seeing.
so it's like the new machine requires a few high-paid priests to run it, but it eliminates thousands of acolytes who used to handle all the routine rituals.
That is the perfect metaphor. AI eliminates routine tasks and routine jobs, but it creates these high-skill, specialized, extremely high-paying jobs centered on managing and designing those complex AI systems.
So the total number of jobs might not crater, but the type of job changes dramatically.
The demand curve is shifting vertically. It's not disappearing entirely.
Which brings us to this resilience imperative. If job titles are becoming obsolete, if routine skills are being automated away, what is the new currency for the worker? What do you do?
The research team really stresses that the new currency is adaptive capacity.
Yeah.
We have to move away from these rigid job roles and into what the sources are calling fluid development ecosystems.
The ability to learn, unlearn, and relearn.
Continuously. This isn't a soft skill anymore. It's a structural necessity for survival.
So it's really about competency over these narrow credentials. How does an organization actually do that? How do you implement a competency-based framework?
It means you have to focus on these enduring blends of knowledge, skills, and behaviors that let your staff navigate new technologies, rather than just focusing on specific tools that might be obsolete in 18 months.
Can you give us an example?
Sure. In a field like healthcare, it looks like ensuring staff possess the critical thinking and ethical judgment to safely integrate a new diagnostic AI tool. You don't just focus on teaching them to code for a specific interface. Competency is the deep-root system that can support any number of skills on the surface.
And we are already seeing this fear of AI job loss impacting real-world career choices, especially among young people who are always the canary in the coal mine for these trends.
It's a remarkable behavioral change, and it's confirmed by the research. In Britain, for example, young people are increasingly pursuing skilled trades engineering, construction, plumbing, welding over traditional university courses like law and social sciences.
They're actively avoiding that cognitive middle ground risk. They're choosing careers that require hands-on physical work and complex spatial reasoning that AI really struggles with.
They are proactively future-proofing themselves. They're choosing competency-based hands-on resilience, and they're avoiding the university debt that comes with a potentially obsolete generalist degree.
It's a fundamental shift in what society values. The market is pricing physical resilience higher than rote cognitive skills.
That's the signal.
And that sentiment about avoiding obsolete degrees brings us straight into the education sector, which is, it's undergoing a massive shockwave right now. The market signal is immediate and brutal, starting with the collapse of some of these legacy edtech companies.
The financial market volatility, it just speaks volumes. Our research shows the stock of a major language learning company, Duolingo, dropped a shocking 45% in a single month.
A single month?
Yeah. This isn't just a regular market dip. This is a fundamental repricing. It signals that investors believe the entire business model of static, gamified content libraries is broken.
The fear is just palpable. Personalized, context-aware AI tutors basically make prepackaged fixed content obsolete.
That's exactly it. Investors are betting that these personalized AI tutors, like the tools we're seeing come online now from Google with Gemini-guided learning, they can offer infinite real-time practice and feedback that's tailored precisely to a student's knowledge gap and their learning style.
So the whole paradigm is shifting from, content libraries that store information to content generation that creates infinite tailored learning experiences on demand.
Right. If an AI can generate a specialized lesson on astrophysics, customized to the reading level of a 7th grader, or, create a French lesson based on your interest in 18th century cooking,
the value of a one-size-fits-all course just plummets.
it plummets to zero.
Yeah.
Education has to shift its value proposition away from content delivery and toward relationship building and applying knowledge to complex problems.
And this market shift connects directly to the huge graduation mismatch crisis we're seeing, where students and employers are they're completely disconnected on what ready means.
The data here is maybe the most sobering indicator of this disconnect. The research team's analysis reveals that only 30% of 2025 graduates actually secured entry-level positions in their fields.
Only 30%, but the educators think they're ready.
That's the striking part. An overwhelming 89% of educators believe their students are ready for the workforce.
That is an immense, dangerous gap in perception. The education system thinks it's producing viable products, but the market is refusing to buy them. So what are employers prioritizing, if not the degrees themselves?
They're citing a severe lack of job-specific technical skills, and they're increasingly demanding 2 to 4 year degrees for roles that never required them before. They're using the degree as a minimum filter for resilience, not a guarantee of specific skills.
The diploma alone is not enough anymore.
It's not. Education needs to pivot from just credentialing to actual competence development to address this structural skill deficit.
We are seeing some proactive responses, though, like that major university proposing a whole new structure for computing and AI.
That's the University of Wisconsin-Madison, which is proposing a brand new College of Computing and Artificial Intelligence. This isn't a small tweak. It's a huge signal to the entire higher ed landscape.
It's positioning AI as a foundational driver.
Exactly. Not just a subdiscipline in computer science, but as a foundational economic driver, like engineering or business. It's acknowledgement that AI literacy must be a basic skill for the modern economy, integrated across all curricula.
From art history to logistics.
Everywhere.
And this leads into personalized learning and the federal government's focus. We're seeing tools that act as 2,147 teaching assistants, which just fundamentally changes the student-teacher ratio.
That's the real utility of tools like Edugen AI, which are being deployed in pilots now. These AI tutors are providing hyper-personalized difficulty adjustment, instant feedback, and they let students ask questions 2047 without feeling embarrassed.
And that ability to deliver high-impact tutoring at massive scale is where the federal strategy is focusing its resources.
Yes. The research highlights federal grants focusing on using AI for high-impact tutoring at scale, especially in K-12 settings.
Right.
Grants are supporting the development of tools like CogGrader 2.0, which automates grading and feedback, aimed at improving writing proficiency by letting teachers provide individualized feedback far more frequently than any human could.
So the strategy is to use AI for the rote, repetitive tasks.
Exactly. Handle the basic drills, grade the first drafts, so that the human educators can focus on cultural context, emotional intelligence, mentoring, and complex, nuanced problem solving.
The message is clear. The future of education is hybrid, blending human insight with digital scale. The old model is just fundamentally broken.
And this shift requires sustained attention from everyone, especially as that skills gap between graduates and the market just keeps widening.
You know, if you're finding this insightful, please take a moment to like this video, subscribe to Tomorrow Unveiled, and consider hitting that new hype button to help us reach more viewers. And of course, be sure to turn on notifications so you never miss an update on the future. And if you're listening on a podcast service like Apple Podcasts or Spotify, we'd be incredibly grateful if you could leave us a rating and review for Tomorrow Unveiled. It truly helps us reach new listeners.
It really does.
So let's transition now from the job market and education to the urgent policy and ethical challenges. I'm talking about bias and equitable access. The core issue of algorithmic discrimination isn't theoretical anymore. It's a confirmed ethical risk that is actively being legislated against.
And the evidence our research team compiled is, it's deeply concerning. Studies of these AI resume screeners show they demonstrably exhibit bias. They prefer resumes with white associated names 85% of the time.
85% of the time.
Yes. This is empirical proof of automated discrimination. AI is just inheriting and amplifying the historical inequities from the data it was trained on. And that has forced regulators to act because, left unchecked, AI will just cement societal injustice through optimized decision-making.
And because the federal government is, largely gridlocked debating things like preemption of state laws, we're seeing individual states drive the regulatory response. It's creating this patchwork of leading-edge legislation.
And that's what's so fascinating here. This state-level regulatory patchwork is leading the innovation in governance.
Right.
Look at New Jersey's landmark guidance. They didn't wait for a new federal AI law. They just clarified that existing anti-discrimination law, Title VII protections, that sort of thing, applies directly to automated decision-making.
So they're basically saying the algorithm doesn't get a pass just because it's software.
Exactly. This makes employers liable for the biases of the algorithms they use, even if they just bought the software off the shelf. It's legally piercing the corporate veil of that common defense, the algorithm made me do it.
It forces firms to audit their tools.
Proactively. It's a massive liability shift.
And California is moving in a similar direction, but they're focused on ensuring human oversight in these really high-stakes decisions.
Correct. California is implementing new regulations that mandate bias mitigation, and they're pushing really hard for a human-in-the-loop requirement. This prevents AI from being the sole arbiter of high-impact decisions like firing, discipline, or promotion.
Which makes sense.
The philosophy is sound. If the decision is potentially life-changing for the employee, a trained, accountable human has to sign off and be able to explain the reasoning. It mitigates that black box problem.
And then you have states like Utah taking a more synergistic approach, pairing regulation with proactive workforce development.
Utah's pro-human AI initiative is a textbook example of this integrated strategy. They're aiming to regulate AI to protect children and preserve state autonomy, focusing heavily on transparency. But at the same time, they announced a significant workforce accelerator to expand AI education in higher ed and K-12.
So they're trying to steer the benefits, not just react to the dangers.
That's it.
So let's bring this all back to the labor market. If displacement is structural, if certain groups are more exposed, and the market is shifting vertically, what mechanisms are there to support this massive involuntary transition?
The policy spotlight really shifts directly to universal basic income, or UBI, or guaranteed basic income, GBI. The proliferation of these pilots is moving the concept from abstract theory to real-world validation.
And it's driven by necessity.
It's driven by the sheer necessity of economic stabilization.
The research team highlights that these UBI pilots are showing transformative positive effects. But I have to challenge this a bit. If the data shows UBI doesn't significantly reduce labor participation, why does the political and popular narrative persist that it encourages idleness? What variables did the research team control for?
That's a crucial question. The empirical evidence is mounting, and it directly contradicts that idleness narrative. Pilots across various U.S. states show significant positive effects, allowing people to secure housing, pursue education, or escape predatory debt, all things that boost future human capital.
Right.
And crucially, systematic reviews of numerous studies find no evidence of significant labor reduction among working-age adults receiving UBI, especially when compared to control groups.
And what are those studies controlling for? That seems important.
They control for things like household debt, the cost of essential services, and what they often find is that the income floor provides the stability that people need to seek better jobs or spend time acquiring those competence-based skills we talked about.
So they're not taking the first low-wage job out of panic.
They can be strategic instead of reactive in their career planning.
This really changes the whole narrative around UBI. It's not about welfare, it's about providing a shock absorber for rapid economic change.
And that's why the discourse is shifting toward viewing UBI as an AI dividend, a necessary mechanism to distribute the wealth generated by automation across society, rather than concentrating it solely among capital owners.
Is anyone doing this on a national scale?
The Marshall Islands provides a global example. They became the first country to implement a permanent UBI, distributing $200 every 3 months as a proactive response to technological disruption and climate instability.
But the downside of this AI-driven world is the risk of what some are calling the next Great Divergence, accelerating global inequality.
That is the explicit warning from organizations like the UN Development Program. AI could potentially accelerate global inequality and reverse decades of global economic convergence. The core challenge is simple, but devastating. If you lack the infrastructure, you can't participate in the AI boom.
So we're running into a severe digital fault line that dictates who wins and who loses.
Exactly. A lack of digital infrastructure, reliable broadband, 5G access, and low digital literacy, they prevent developing nations and low-income populations from benefiting. And the data shows a massive discrepancy.
What kind of discrepancy?
Only about 1/3 of workers in low-exposure fields are upskilling, compared to 75% in computer-related fields. This compounding effect means the people who need upskilling the most are the least likely to get it, because they lack basic access.
And the data also shows certain vulnerable groups face systematically higher exposure risks.
It does. Corroborated data shows women and youth face high exposure to automation risk globally, largely because they're often concentrated in routine, administrative, and data entry roles that AI targets first.
So inclusive infrastructure is essential.
It's absolutely essential. Treating digital access like a public utility is the only way to prevent technological wealth concentration from becoming this new axis of global inequality.
Okay, let's pivot and look at the tangible realization of abundance that offers I think, a necessary counterweight to all this anxiety over jobs and inequality. The research team highlights some incredible breakthroughs in mobility and energy.
They really do. And the most dramatic recent news in mobility is this solid-state battery leap. A major car manufacturer, Toyota, has now confirmed plans to launch the world's first practical all-solid-state battery EV by 2027-2028.
This has been called the holy grail of battery tech for a long time. For our audience, the technical detail matters. What makes this so revolutionary compared to the lithium-ion batteries we have now?
The difference is the material. Solid-state batteries replace the volatile, flammable liquid electrolyte in current batteries with a solid material, usually a specialized ceramic or polymer. And this structural change radically improves performance and safety.
How does that translate into tangible improvements for the driver?
Okay, so first, higher energy density. Because the solid electrolyte is more stable and compact, you can pack more energy into the same space. That means longer ranges, maybe 50% or more, in a smaller, lighter package.
And they're safer.
Much safer. The solid material is far less prone to the kind of thermal runaway that causes battery fires. And third, and this may be the most critical part for mass adoption, is charging speed. We're talking about charging an EV from 10% to 80% capacity in as little as 10 minutes.
10 minutes. That removes the two primary constraints on mass EV adoption right there. Range anxiety and slow charging times. It effectively decouples personal transportation from the oil market.
It accelerates us toward energy abundance and mobility.
Yeah.
And, there's a geopolitical opportunity here, too. This shift to solid state offers other nations a chance to leapfrog the current dominance in battery supply chains and establish a new standard.
And speaking of energy abundance, the timeline for fusion energy also seems to be accelerating dramatically. It's moving from pure science to industrial engineering.
The progress is moving so rapidly thanks to massive private and public investment. Just this week, we saw Commonwealth Fusion Systems, a leading private fusion company, deliver high-tech superconducting magnets to the University of Wisconsin for the WAM experiment.
Okay, let's clarify for our listeners. Why is delivering magnets a big deal, and what is the WAM experiment?
So the WAM experiment is designed to test critical component functionality. Specifically, how these high-temperature superconducting magnets perform under the extreme conditions you need to contain plasma hot enough for fusion.
So it's about building and testing the actual hardware.
Exactly. It signifies that the technology is maturing. Fusion is no longer just about calculating the physics. It's now about building, delivering, and testing industrial-scale hardware. It's moving from theoretical to engineering validation.
Which accelerates the timeline considerably.
A lot. And the fact that we're seeing bipartisan legislation being introduced to extend tax credits to fusion means governments see this not just as a long-shot science experiment, but as a critical industrial strategy to get to clean, abundant power on a timeline that's far closer than most people realize.
It's an investment in infrastructural abundance, which finally brings us to the structural solution for digital scarcity itself. Digital public infrastructure, or DPI, often modeled after India's India Stack.
DPI offers this crucial third way for internet governance and market participation. It's about creating open, interoperable protocols for identity, payments, and commerce that serve as a necessary counterweight to big tech monopolies.
We should break down what DPI actually means. You mentioned the India Stack. What are the three core layers of this infrastructure?
The three layers are foundational, just like a public utility. The first is identity, providing a verifiable digital proof of identity to every citizen. The second is payments, enabling instant, low-cost digital transfers between any accounts, which breaks the dominance of traditional banks.
And the third layer?
The third is data or consent. This lets the user control their own data and share it securely with services they choose. It prevents platforms from hoarding data and locking users in. By creating open protocols for these three things, DPI essentially demonopolizes the foundation of the digital economy.
So how does that actually counter big tech in the real world?
By creating open platforms like India's UNDP for e-commerce, it lets small businesses and individual sellers participate without paying these high platform rents or, adhering to the ever-changing rules of a single monopolistic walled garden like Amazon or Google.
It offers a clear structural alternative between the U.S. model of private platforms and the Chinese model of state control.
Exactly. And it ensures the benefits of the digital economy are widely diffused, not concentrated.
It's an infrastructure-based solution to ensure wealth and opportunity are broadly shared, which addresses that great divergence risk from a completely new angle.
And that's the key to future-proofing society. Ensuring the wealth and opportunity generated by technology are structured for diffusion, not for hoarding.
We love hearing your thoughts. Whether you're on Tomorrow Unveiled on YouTube or your favorite podcast app, leave a comment and let us know what you think about the future of energy and abundance technologies. Do you think solid-state batteries or fusion energy will hit the market first?
I'd love to see those comments.
So this deep dive into the research team's materials, it really confirms that the challenges ahead are less about the technology itself, which is proceeding brilliantly, and more about managing the sheer velocity of change and designing a just, humane transition.
The friction is absolutely real. The job losses in professional services, the collapse of edtech stocks, the undeniable algorithmic bias, it's all happening. But so is the abundance potential in fusion, in solid-state mobility, in open digital infrastructure. We have to act now to bridge that gap between technological potential and societal readiness.
To future-proof our society, the research really points to three core strategic imperatives that we have to embrace immediately.
First, we have to fundamentally embrace continuous, competency-based learning. Job titles are obsolete. Adaptive capacity is the new currency. The worker has to see themselves as an evolving node in a fluid ecosystem.
Right.
Second, we have to proactively support policy innovation like UBI to manage this inevitable structural displacement and ensure the AI dividend benefits everyone, not just capital owners. It provides that necessary economic stability. And third, we have to invest rapidly in equitable digital and physical infrastructure. Treat digital access as a public utility, to ensure AI benefits diffusion, not concentration, and prevent a new Great Divergence.
As we look toward this potential of unprecedented abundance, clean energy, automated productivity, we're left with a final and I think provocative friction point that the research team confirmed. While AI promises limitless computing and efficiency, the expanding network of data centers required for cooling these massive systems are rapidly accelerating water consumption.
This is leading to significant, confirmed community pushback in drought-prone areas, especially in the U.S. Southwest. It's creating a growing green versus digital conflict. The next great scarcity challenge isn't just energy for the machines.
It's water for the communities.
It's water for the communities, and it's something we absolutely must address before our pursuit of digital abundance drains our most vital natural resource.
Thank you for joining us on Tomorrow Unveiled. We'll see you next time for the next deep dive.